Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Just a week to go from tonight until the midterms, and Election Day is finally becoming a referendum on something that really matters. Immigration. Who gets to live here? What does citizenship mean? What kind of country do we want? These are not small incidental questions. What you're watching is not an argument about Russian Facebook ads or Stormy Daniels or her creepy lawyer or some other diversion designed to prevent you from thinking clearly. These are core debates. These are the arguments that every functioning democracy must have, and yet ours rarely does. Consider the question of birthright citizenship. Under current interpretations of American law, anyone born on our soil automatically becomes a U.S. citizen. Context is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if your parents were tourists or illegal aliens or foreign saboteurs, if their plane was forced down to refuel and you emerged. It doesn't matter. If you were born on our property, you are a citizen. Well, in a recent interview with Axios, President Trump suggested this is not a great deal for America. He pledged to change it with an executive order. As of tonight, it seems likely that order would abolish so-called birth tourism. That's where people travel to the United States solely for the purpose of having kids and winning citizenship, along with the many benefits that follow from that. We'll know more about it soon, and of course we'll tell you when we do know. But nobody else in Washington is waiting for details. They hate it already. The very same people who have spent decades trying to gut the Bill of Rights are now lecturing the rest of us that the idea is, brace yourself, unconstitutional. Paul Ryan, for example, he's the outgoing Speaker of the House, he announced his opposition to this immediately. The very idea, he said, is ridiculous. Listen.
Well, you obviously cannot do that. You cannot end birthright citizenship with an executive order.
Well, obviously. Note the phrasing. Obviously. That's what people say when they don't feel like making a rational case for their positions, usually because they can't. Is it really, quote, obvious that the Constitution requires us to give citizenship to the children of illegal aliens? Paul Ryan has no idea. He just doesn't want to have a conversation about it. He wants you to be quiet. In fact, as a legal matter, it is an open question. The Supreme Court has never ruled on it. But there is ample reason to believe the law does not apply to illegal immigrants or birth tourists. Birthright citizenship arises from the 14th Amendment that was passed just 3 years after the Civil War. And it was passed to guarantee citizenship to freed slaves. The senator who wrote the citizenship clause in the 14th Amendment, Jacob Howard of Michigan, explained the point of it on the Senate floor at the time. Quote, the amendment will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers, end quote. Again, the amendment was designed to ensure that newly freed slaves would be treated as the American citizens they were. The point was to enfranchise African Americans. The point was not to enable the rest of the world to scam our system, to abuse our generosity. Trump's proposal would get us closer to the purpose of the 14th Amendment. And for that, he is being denounced naturally as a racist. Listen to some of the dumb people on TV.
What used to be 5 years ago, 10 years ago, dog whistles to appeal to the fears of white voters now are just stated openly.
The principal debate in Europe and the United States, the real fault line that gets people going is this issue of openness. How open are we to people? How open are we to trade? And it's this issue of national identity versus internationalism, globalism, if you will. So what Donald Trump is doing is he is mining that fault line. He is working it, whether it's birthright citizenship, whether it's sending troops to a border that's not under siege. We're no longer arguing serious issues about how to regulate our economies. We're no longer arguing serious issues, say, about how to fight the Cold War. We are arguing questions about national identity, and it's not that far to get from that to issues of racism.
So let's get this straight. Defining citizenship is not, quote, a serious issue? Only in New York and Washington, where serious is where to find good burrata or how to get to the Hamptons in under 3 hours on a Friday night. These people are total buffoons. In fact, there is no more serious debate than the debate over citizenship, and it's long overdue. Globally, birthright citizenship is the rare exception. It is not the rule. Canada and the U.S. are the only developed countries that have birthright citizenship. Not a single European country allows it. Out of the 54 countries in Africa, only 2 offer birthright citizenship. Are the other 52 racist? How about Harry Reid? Is he a racist too? Watch the former Democratic Senate Majority Leader explain his views on birthright citizenship.
If making it easy to be an illegal alien isn't enough, how about offering a reward for being an illegal immigrant? No sane country would do that, right? Guess again. If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship and guarantee of full access to all public and social services this society provides. And that's a lot of services. Is it any wonder that 2/3 of the babies born at taxpayer expense at county-run hospitals in Los Angeles are born to illegal alien mothers?
Now, as a factual matter, that's tougher than anything Donald Trump has ever said. Keep in mind that just 4 years ago, that man, Harry Reid, was the top Democrat in the Senate. Try saying that today, he'd be called Bull Connor and shouted off the stage. But the questions he raised are still fair questions. Is unlimited birthright citizenship helping this country, or is it hurting this country? Under our current system, illegal immigrants who come to the U.S. and have children are eligible to receive tax credits, food stamps, other welfare benefits. Those are huge incentives. Not surprisingly, 1 in every 12 births in this country right now is to someone here illegally. And that total does not even include birth tourism. Every year, tens of thousands of foreign nationals come to this country on tourist visas solely to give birth to children. The Chinese are strongly overrepresented in this. One ad in China offers, quote, high-end U.S. birth tourism specialists, end quote. For just 20 grand, these experts navigate clients through the process of having a child in America. In return for that 20 grand, their kids gain the right to Social Security, Medicare, countless other federal programs. If they come back to the U.S. for college, they get in-state tuition, federally backed student loans, financial aid, all the benefits that ought to be going to actual Americans who are drowning in college debt. This is a scam. There is no other word for it. And by the way, don't blame the Chinese or the Russians or the Salvadorans or anybody else using the system. We're the ones offering it. Why wouldn't they take it? The blame lies with us. No other country would allow itself to be relentlessly exploited like this for decades. And no other leadership class would side with foreigners over its own people. And yet ours does every time. And that tells you everything. Michael Anton is a former senior national security official in the Trump administration, a lecturer at Hillsdale College, and probably the first person in this generation to raise the question of whether birthright citizenship is indeed constitutional. Thank you very much, Michael Anton. You wrote this piece that I think began this current conversation this past July. And people were stunned to find out that this was not a settled matter. Most people believe this is etched on the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, but it's not.
Right. And I do want to give credit where credit's due to people that I learned these arguments from. John Eastman,
yes,
is a constitutional scholar and lawyer, litigator. He litigates constitutional questions. And Edward Erler, who's a student of the American founding and the Civil War era, who's done really the scholarly work on this. I learned this argument from them. They're two of my teachers. But it's true that, you know, it had kind of gone dormant for a while.
Dormant? This is Flat Earth Society stuff. So everyone believes that we have a constitutional mandate to allow the children of illegal aliens to become citizens.
And they base that belief on a misreading of the very first sentence of the 14th Amendment, which says all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. They leave out the part in the middle, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. They either leave it out or they say subject to the jurisdiction just means you have to obey the law. Well, everybody has to obey the law. If you're a tourist coming from England or Canada or anywhere, you have to obey U.S. law while you're in the United States. That doesn't make your children a citizen or you a citizen. Subject to the jurisdiction meant something specific to the people who wrote the amendment. We know this because they said it. You read the debates over the amendment. They said it means that you don't owe allegiance to any foreign power, to anyone else. You're subject to the complete jurisdiction in the United States, which means you're not a citizen of another country. So it clearly doesn't apply to people who aren't citizens or who are born to people who aren't citizens, who are subject to the jurisdiction of another country. The Constitution is clear on that point. There's no statute that says otherwise. But decades ago, the executive branch agencies of the federal government just decided to apply this principle as if, well, we owe everyone birthright citizenship. Now, why do they do that? Why do bureaucracies typically, in our country anyway, typically act act without authority. Usually it's to serve the interests of liberalism. When the administrative state starts doing something that it's not authorized to do and that no one has ever told it to do, you can bet it's not doing so for conservative reasons or for reasons that benefit American citizens. It's doing so for reasons that benefit liberalism. And that's what happened in this case.
So you're hearing the argument now from the usual chorus of dumb people that this, like everything that they don't like, is racist.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the purpose of this amendment was to enfranchise people who had been African Americans who'd been enslaved.
Absolutely.
And so in what sense would this, I mean, does that argument even make sense?
No.
And I want to take it seriously.
As you say, though, it's the racist is just a cudgel with which to beat up people whose arguments you don't like. So the 13th Amendment freed every slave. You had a controversy at the time where some states were saying, okay, you can free the slaves, but we have the power to make them citizens, and we're not going to do it. So Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866. The same Congress, same year that drafted this amendment. That was vetoed by President Johnson. The veto is overridden, so you get 2/3 of both houses saying freed black slaves, they are citizens. And that also says not subject to any foreign power. Well, then some of the southern states came back with, okay, well, 1857, the Supreme Court ruled in Dred Scott that no black person, even a free black person, could ever be a citizen of the United States. So the Reconstruction Congress said, okay, then we're going to put this in the Constitution. We're not going to let you get away with this. We're going to make this undeniable that every freed slave and their descendants are citizens of the United States.
So an amendment designed to enfranchise African Americans born here, been here 400 years, 500 years, is now being used by Chinese nationals.
And Russians, too.
Russians flying into Guam or Los Angeles to have children here. That would be not the original intent, I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely not. I mean, one of the things that I find incredible and amusing, sadly so, though, is the Russia hysteria of our time. Russia's supposed to be the biggest enemy the United States has right now, more dangerous enemy than in the Cold War. We're all supposed to be almost on a war footing with Russia.
Yes.
And the president is criticized for saying maybe we should cool it a little bit and turn the heat down. However, we can't question the practice of Russian women flying to Miami and having their babies to get U.S. tourists. So this supposed enemy of ours, it's a sacrosanct principle to allow them to abuse our system by giving citizenship to their children who are born here, spend a couple of days, and then go back to Moscow.
So the real principle that undergirds it is hurting ourselves. We're required to hurt ourselves.
Hurting ourselves, and of course hurting the president.
Right.
I mean, the Russia story is all about hurting the president.
And America. Masochism being the operating impulse of the left. It's bizarre. Michael Anton, who kicked this off, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
The president traveled to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today following the murder of 11 worshipers at the Tree of Life Synagogue in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood there. Trace Gallagher has more on what happened. Trace?
Tucker, the president's first stop was in fact Squirrel Hill, the historic hub of Pittsburgh's Jewish community. It is also where the Tree of Life Synagogue is located, the scene of Saturday's 20-minute shooting rampage that took the lives of 11 people, the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history. The synagogue itself remains a crime scene, but the president, First Lady, daughter Ivanka, son-in-law Jared Kushner, along with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and Chief of Staff John Kelly, went into the vestibule to light candles. And then, following Jewish tradition, the president lay stones and white roses on 11 Star of David markers planted near a makeshift memorial to the victims. The president and his group were accompanied by Tree of Life Rabbi Jeffrey Myers, whose heroics likely saved many lives during the attack. Rabbi Myers first said he welcomed Mr. Trump's visit, then after getting pushback from some congregants, changed his mind, but finally decided that accompanying the first family was the right thing to do. Pittsburgh's Democratic Mayor Bill Peduto and Pennsylvania's Democratic Governor Tom Wolf chose not to meet with the president. Mr. Trump did not speak during today's visit, but here's what he told Laura Ingraham last night. Watch.
I'm just going to pay my respects. I'm also going to the hospital to see the officers and some of the people that were so badly hurt.
And in fact, the president did go to the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center to visit the wounded. The first funerals were also held today, one for 66-year-old Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz and a joint service for brothers Cecil and David Rosenthal. Tucker.
Trace Gallagher for us. Thanks very much, Trace. Midterm elections 1 week from right now. One embattled Democrat wants to make it absolutely clear she's not a nutcase like everyone else in the Democratic Party. Lisa Booth has the latest on that race and others after the break. Well, a week from right now, we'll be sitting on this set reading you election returns. Bunch of races coming down to the wire, and the landscape's still unclear just 7 days out. I want to take a close look at a couple of different races tonight to get a better sense of what's about to happen. In the state of Florida, the Democratic gubernatorial candidate, Andrew Gillum, he's the mayor of Tallahassee, the one who apparently was under FBI investigation, he's decided to boost his odds by feuding with the president. He tweeted this, quote, "I heard that Donald Trump ran home to Fox News to lie about me. But as my grandmother told me, never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty, but the pig likes it. So ignore him and vote, Florida!" Exclamation point. Meanwhile, undercover journalist James O'Keefe has a new video in which a staffer for Carlson out in Arizona says that Sinema is hiding her liberalism to deceive voters.
California's so nice out here. When I say ban guns in California, we're all like, yeah, ban them. You say ban guns out here, they'll actually shoot you.
There's a lot of very conservative people in Arizona, and so she can't alienate the conservative or moderate conservative voters by being she is pro-choice, she's very liberal, she's progressive.
Right.
But she doesn't, in this election, want to draw too much attention to being progressive because she's trying to be more. That's why I think she took so much Democratic help, too. Otherwise, she wouldn't have won.
Yeah, because the country's not quite as crazy as the Democratic Party, even in 2018, so lie about it. That's what's happening in Missouri, perhaps, where Claire McCaskill, the incumbent senator, is disavowing the Democratic Party. Watch this.
I would say this. I would not call my colleagues crazy, but Elizabeth Warren sure went after me when I advocated tooling back some of the regulations for small banks and credit unions. I certainly disagree with Bernie Sanders on a bunch of stuff.
For the record, there is literally no difference between Elizabeth Warren and Claire McCaskill, but whatever. Independent Women's Voice senior fellow Lisa Booth has been on these campaigns for us for a while now and doing a great job.
Thanks.
Lisa, I sense a theme here. Let's start with the McCaskill clip that we just played, where some Democrats in some states are pretending to be much more moderate than their voting record suggests they really are.
Well, absolutely. And Claire McCaskill has said that Elizabeth Warren is one of those crazy Democrats, yet she has voted with her 60% of the time, and she's voted with Senator Chuck Schumer 80% of the time, and she's only voted with President Trump 45% of the time. But guess what? She is trying to show that she is chummy with President Trump because he won the state of Missouri by 19 points. She told Bret Baier that she 100% supports President Trump's policies on the caravan and on his immigration response to that. So she's trying to run to the center. And Josh Hawley, who is her Republican opponent, has really made this an issue by calling out Claire McCaskill and saying, you are not a moderate. You are too left-leaning for the state. So that's what this is all in response to with Claire McCaskill.
Yeah, and I got to say, just an editorial comment I can't repress. If Trump wins the state by 19 points, the Republicans should be doing a little better than they're doing, in my opinion. I mean, like, what is that? It's Missouri. But anyway, in Arizona...
I can't disagree.
Yeah, please. Carlson, of course, running against Martha McSally, the congresswoman, a veteran, U.S. military veteran. Where is that race right now, would you say?
It's still really tight, and that is... interesting. I would say that President Trump didn't win Arizona by that much in 2016. So I think it is a little bit more of a swing state than people give it credit for. But look, Carlson didn't really start moderating her views until 2012. And so now she's trying to, ever since then, she's been trying to present herself as more of a moderate. This is someone that in 2010 attended a Netroots conference, which is where she said Arizona is the meth lab of democracy. As you know, Netroots is this uber progressive organization and conference. She's also called herself a proto-socialist in the past, and she's had these crazy left-wing ideas and policies on military in the past, as well as border security being part of this no deaths group. So she's clearly made a calculated move to move to the center because that's what it takes to win the state of Arizona as a Democrat. And for the Project Veritas video, they edited that. We can't independently verify that at Fox News, but I think what it does show is that she's clearly trying to hide some of these past positions that she's had.
At least Beto O'Rourke, who I would eat broken glass before voting for, I'm not endorsing Beto O'Rourke, but at least he says, I'm kind of a far-out progressive. Be honest about it. Maybe you get points for that. Maybe Sinema should do the same. Lisa, great to see you tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
Well, a handful of black conservatives are advocating what they're calling Blexit. That would be an exodus of African Americans from the Democratic Party. Could that actually happen? We've got an update on it next. stream of consciousness talk in the White House recently and was roundly attacked for it. But if you listen carefully, there were some insightful points that he made and some important questions, including whether black Americans ought to be monolithically loyal to the Democratic Party. Why should they be? That's a question other people are asking as well. Star Parker is one of them. She's founder and president of the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. She just wrote a piece suggesting that as Democrats have moved left on religion and social policy, even the rule of law itself, they could continue to alienate some conservative-minded black voters. Star Parker joins us tonight. Star Parker, thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome.
So the most simple question first, why should African Americans who for generations have been very loyal to the Democratic Party rethink that loyalty?
Well, they've been loyal to the Democratic Party because blacks have bought this idea of activist government. But something very exciting is happening now with Trump in office. The Trump administration is focusing on urban communities and initiatives. So we have two things happening right now that are very, very exciting. Number one, the African American millennials, those that Kanye West are motivated, those that Candace Owen are motivated to say, wait a minute, what have Democrats done for us? First of all, the millennial does not buy this racism behind every rock narrative of the Democrat Party because their friends are diverse. They've grown up in a society post-civil rights era, so they don't know that world at all. But secondly, they're individualists. They like uniqueness. We can see that in the tattoos that they wear. And so this whole idea of collectivism and big government doesn't work for them as well. But what's also happened is you have that baby boom black. The baby boom black is more traditional in their worldview. So now the Democrat Party has become so extreme to the left, so progressive, that it's conflicting with that baby boom black's worldview and values, and they're concerned about their grandchildren and what they're learning in school. So we'll see how it all plays out. We're looking very closely, our group is looking very closely at Wisconsin, at Michigan, when we're talking about the Senate seats, when we're talking about the governor seats, we should all be looking at Georgia, we should look at Florida, and then even to some degree Maryland. So I'm very excited about the momentum.
So if you're an African American voter and your family's been in this country for 400 years, a long time in a lot of cases, and all of a sudden your party is telling you that the real concern is people who aren't even here legally, foreign nationals from other countries, do you ask yourself at some point, but what about me, the American citizen?
Right.
Does that turn off voters at a certain point?
It's not only turning them off that this hijacking of the civil rights movement is taking place for legal minorities, but illegals are even more frustrating because now you're looking at an environment to where you have that low-wage worker competing for jobs in communities and against people who will not speak English. So now it's not only affecting the real low wage, it's affecting the middle class, because if you want to work in any type of public service, for the fire, for the police, for the teachers, anything, you have to be bilingual, and this is making a tremendous impact on African Americans to rethink who these new arrivals are and why they.
I think it's a totally fair question. I never even thought about the bilingual question, but it's a real one.
Oh, it's horrible. It's like you can't even, in California, for instance, you can take the driver's license test in 40 languages.
But so why, I never hear Maxine Waters or any member of the CBC mention that. Why?
Because they're very invested in progressivism. It's their job to make sure blacks do not get any of this information. The whole Congressional Black Caucus is similar to the overseer during slavery. They had to make sure that no slave gets any information of freedom, and that's been their role for the last 50 years. What's happening now with the internet is people are getting more information. In fact, even my organization, Urban Cure, we have our own news site, blackcommunitynews.com, so people are getting other sources of news, and they're finding out the truth. What President Trump has said lately about fake news is very real. So there are many instruments now competing against that, to the mainstream media, so that we can get other information, and blacks are hearing those messages.
Star Parker, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
San Francisco, one of the most expensive cities in the world, could get more expensive very soon. The city may start taxing businesses hundreds of millions of dollars. They say it will fight homelessness. Will it work? We'll speak to a local politician about that after the break. Well, it's not often covered in the news anymore, but American forces are still fighting in Afghanistan. It's been 17 years since we first sent troops there to topple the Taliban government. We still have thousands of Americans in the country. So far this year, 8 of them have been killed. President Trump hates this. We happen to know he has often complained to people around him about the quagmire that Afghanistan has become. You remember that when he ran for president, one of Trump's central promises was to keep America out of pointless foreign wars like this one. President Washington despised him for saying that because it implicated them in their failures. But voters appreciated hearing it. And yet somehow the war in Afghanistan has continued to this day fruitlessly. That's thanks almost entirely to bullying from our thoroughly discredited foreign policy establishment. They are happy to keep things the way they are. 17 years later, though, we as a country have almost nothing to show for what we spent there, the lives and the money. The Taliban remains strong. The U.S.-backed government controls barely half of that country. This spring, the DOJ described Afghanistan as, quote, largely lawless, weak, and dysfunctional. Most depressing of all, we're no longer even aiming at any kind of military victory. The best we can hope for is a sort of stalemate that keeps the Taliban partly in power. So what is the point of all of this? Well, some people are getting rich from it. Drive through the D.C. suburbs sometime and see for yourself. But most Americans derive no benefit at all. Some families are paying the highest possible price. 2 years in, it's not too late for the president to deliver on a campaign promise he once made and end this disaster. Tomorrow might be a good day to start with that. San Francisco, one of the most expensive cities to live in or do business in, could soon get even more costly. This Tuesday, the voters in the city will consider an initiative that would implement a new tax on businesses. That money, they say, would be used to fight homelessness. If approved, the tax is expected to cost businesses in San Francisco about $300 million a year. Joe Alioto Veronese is a former member of the San Francisco Police Commission. He's currently running for DA there. He's a frequent guest on the show, and he joins us tonight. Joe, thanks very much for coming on. So a new tax to fight homelessness. How much right now does San Francisco spend already on homelessness?
Well, the number they throw out is $300 million, but it's probably closer to about $1.5 to $2 billion if you take into account all the resources that each of the city departments are putting into the issue. The fire department alone, I'm one of the fire commissioners here, we recently did an audit, and almost half of our calls are homeless-related calls. 40% of our calls are homeless-related calls. So there are a lot of resources going into this issue, and I think the mayor is right on this one. She's only been in office for about 6 months. She says no on C, which is the proposition you're speaking of. And I think she's right about it, because there's this institution that's been built around homelessness that if we keep feeding it money and it's not showing results, it's really just a practice of lunacy. And so this mayor has said she's dedicated to the #1 issue of solving homelessness. So for her to say that no on C is really a big deal, because she personally sees where this money goes, and so she's fixing this problem the way it should be solved.
Well, so does every. If I could just say, I was just there last week, and the city is inherently beautiful. Obviously, you know that, but it's the filthiest place I've been in North America. That's $1 billion in. Why not do what cities have traditionally done, which is to say, you're not allowed to shoot heroin on the sidewalk or defecate in front of kids on Market Street? Wouldn't that be a good start, a zero tolerance for outrageous behavior in public?
Well, certainly accountability, absolutely, but that's different from homelessness, right? Because you have people that are on the street on a daily basis that aren't necessarily homeless, but if you want to get rid of some of that behavior, you have to install some accountability. Our current district attorney has announced he's not running for district attorney again for re-election because he's going to care for his sick mother, which is great, but that leaves our city in a lame duck status, of which it kind of already was, because a lot of the criminals know they can get away with things here in San Francisco and not be prosecuted, much like the images and the things that you're seeing on the streets there.
But
these are also
where's everybody? Hold on. I mean, I believe that your district attorney is lame. I mean, the proof is in the fruit. But where's everybody else? If you walk down Market Street and there are people sleeping perpendicular on the sidewalk in puddles of urine, why do people put up with that? Why doesn't someone say, get out of here? I'm sorry, you don't have a right. You don't own the sidewalk. You can't do this. My kids are here. Where are those people, the normal people?
I think the people of San Francisco are fed up, and they are everywhere. And we're waiting for this new mayor to step up and do something about it. But frankly, she can't do it on her own. We need a district attorney that's going to help out as well. And the police department is starting to show some signs that they're going to step up as well under this new mayor. But the reality of it is, a lot of San Franciscans are fed up with it, and they're just throw their hands up because they can't solve the problems themselves. They expect the leadership to solve those problems. This current leadership in the DA's office is not doing it. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm running for DA.
Have you thought about maybe sending a delegation to, I don't know, rural Vietnam or Burma or somewhere in Southeast Asia where the economy is 100th the size of San Francisco, but where there's none of this, and ask, like, why don't you have people defecating on the sidewalk? Oh, because you won't put up with
Tucker,
it.
you don't even need to go that far. You know the Bay Area. If you go into the Presidio, just across the street from San Francisco, I spoke to some of the police officers there. They have no homelessness there. You don't see people shooting up. It's because they don't tolerate it.
Exactly.
The example is right in our backyard. All we have to do is look to the Presidio.
Because they won't tolerate it. I love that. That ought to be your campaign slogan. I'd send you money. Joe, thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks. Hold on to your money, Tucker.
I'm going to. I know we disagree, but I agree with that. Thanks. Well, the creepy porn lawyer has had a rough couple weeks. We've been following it very closely. That's our job. He mangled his attack on Brett Kavanaugh, but he is undeterred in his presidential bid. He's making preparations. Tons of people here in Washington are helping him. What is that? We have details after the break.
He's a beast.
He's a beast, and he keeps popping Donald Trump and all of his folks in the mouth. John Meacham says he may be the savior of the republic.
He really is a master of the media cycle. I owe Michael Avenatti an apology. For the last couple of weeks, I've been saying, enough already, Michael. I've seen you everywhere. What do you have left to say? I was wrong, brother. You have a lot to say. The Democrats could learn something for you.
But he has a bigger calling here. That being a lawyer is minimal compared to what he's doing.
The priesthood?
Whatever. He's out there saving the country.
The savior of the republic. You know what the creepy porn lawyer really is? He's a Rorschach blot. What you see when you look at him tells you a lot about you. Well, he used to be a media darling, as you just saw, but in the past month, it has gotten a lot tougher to be the creepy porn lawyer. First, he failed to defame Brett Kavanaugh after accusing him of serial gang rape. Then he was exposed for failing to pay his taxes. His law firm is even being evicted for not paying rent. Failing on all sides, he has decided to do what they always do in Washington, seek refuge in audacity. He's gearing up for a presidential run. Politico reports that the creepy porn lawyer has already assembled a team of veteran Democratic advisors, including Jack Quinn, who's quite a famous Democratic advisor here in Washington, to help him raise money, craft a message, and ultimately rule the land as president. Maybe the creepy porn president will do better than the creepy porn lawyer has done. Tammy Bruce is radio host, president of Independent Women's Voice. She joins us tonight. So, Tammy, I mean, the whole point of never using his name, which I don't even know, to be honest, at this point, is to send, obviously, the signal that we're not going to take this wholly seriously. And yet there are people in Washington, Jack Quinn, again, the famous Clinton friend and sort of an eminent guy in Washington, nice guy. Sure. He apparently is advising creepy porn lawyers. So why are all these Democrats taking a non-serious candidacy so seriously is the question.
Well, they think there might be money. Look, for a lot of these people, this is their job, 24/7, right, 365, is that they work for candidates and people ginning up their profile to be serious people or more serious people. But clearly for the Democrats, the bar has become very, very low. It's so low, it's on the floor. And you saw the comments with your montage, really remarkable. If this guy, not only with the IRS having trouble losing a lawsuit from a former partner to the tune of over $4 million, his client, Stormy Daniels, been told by a judge that she has to pay Donald Trump's legal fees, having lost part of a case against him, which is now like over $300,000. So while creepy porn lawyer is elevating his profile, using these people, she is probably going to have to go bankrupt. Julie Swetnick and he are under being referred for a criminal investigation by the Senate. She's going to have to get a different lawyer as well to defend her. So he's destroying these lives and using these women. And it looks like maybe the Democratic Party is the next woman that he wants to use to get more money or to elevate himself.
That's such a good point. And actually, I made that point to him in his one and only appearance on the set. And I think we have the tape. Here we go. Stormy Daniels was to perform in Richmond in a depressing strip club. This hero that you say you're protecting, you're her protector. Why is she working in seedy strip clubs while you're on television wearing expensive suits? Why are you not exploiting her? Why is she doing that?
Because she wants to, Tucker. And
she wants to.
This is America. This is America. And guess what? If a woman wants to perform in a strip club, she does so.
But you're getting rich.
Even though people, I'm not getting rich.
How badly do you think Stormy Daniels wants to perform at strip clubs in Richmond?
Look, women make their own decisions. We all find our own level, and we make choices based on what best suits us. The problem with Mr. Creepy porn lawyer is that the only thing missing from him is the giant gold ring and a big, giant gold necklace, as he's using this process to benefit himself. And you see that as the clients lose, they don't just lose, Tucker. They end up having charges against them or having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that they lose and they get ruined. Now, that's the Democrats. And look, he might be a perfect Democrat candidate because that's what the Democrats do to the country, right? They get in there, they bankrupt us, they ruin our lives, and everything is worse. So this is clearly what we should expect from the Democrats. But in fact, the base deserves better. Women, regardless of their party, deserve better. The Democrats think that it's the Me Too movement, and yet this is the man that they want to elevate in this process. They're desperate. There clearly is no talent left. There clearly is maybe not even a party at this point. And that exchange with you, Tucker, will go down in infamy as an example of what we would expect and would want from leaders in this country. And the Democratic Party clearly has, I think, hit, well, I don't know if it's rock bottom yet. Maybe the team of creepy porn lawyer and Hillary for 2020 would be great.
I want a reasonable Democrat to win. I mean, he could win. Tammy Bruce, thank you for your smart analysis.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, the migrant caravan, which we're not supposed to talk about because it's wrong, but we're going to anyway, is still on its way north, making its way here. The president said he's going to meet with thousands of U.S. troops. Is that a smart thing to do? Will it affect the midterm election a week from today? That's next.
He's a beast.
He's a beast, and he keeps popping Donald Trump and all of his folks in the mouth. John Meacham says he may be the savior of the Republic.
He really is a master of the media cycle. I owe Michael Avenatti an apology. For the last couple of weeks, I've been saying, enough already, Michael. I've seen you everywhere. What do you have left to say? I was wrong, brother. You have a lot to say. The Democrats could learn something from you.
You represent, but he has a bigger calling here. That being a lawyer is minimal compared to what he's doing.
The priesthood?
Whatever. He's out there saving the country.
The savior of the Republic. You know what the creepy porn lawyer really is? He's a Rorschach blot. What you see when you look at him tells you a lot about you. Well, he used to be a media darling, as you just saw, but in the past month, it has gotten a lot tougher to be the creepy porn lawyer. First, he failed to defame Brett Kavanaugh after accusing him of serial gang rape. Then he was exposed for failing to pay his taxes. His law firm is even being evicted for not paying rent. Failing on all sides, he has decided to do what they always do in Washington, seek refuge in audacity. He's gearing up for a presidential run. Politico reports that the creepy porn lawyer has already assembled a team of veteran Democratic advisors, including Jack Quinn, who's quite a famous Democratic advisor here in Washington, to help him raise money, craft a message, and ultimately rule the land as president. Maybe the creepy porn president will do better than the creepy porn lawyer has done. Tammy Bruce is radio host, president of Independent Women's Voice. She joins us tonight. So, Tammy, I mean, the whole point of never using his name, which I don't even know, to be honest, at this point, is to send, obviously, the signal that we're not going to take this wholly seriously. And yet there are people in Washington, Jack Quinn, again, the famous Clinton friend and sort of an eminent guy in Washington, nice guy. Sure. He apparently is advising creepy porn lawyers. So why are all these Democrats taking a non-serious candidacy so seriously is the question.
Well, they think there might be money. Look, for a lot of these people, this is their job, 24/7, right, 365, is that they work for candidates and people ginning up their profile to be serious people or more serious people. But clearly for the Democrats, the bar has become very, very low. It's so low, it's on the floor. And you saw the comments with your montage, really remarkable. If this guy, not only with the IRS having trouble losing a lawsuit from a former partner to the tune of over $4 million, his client, Stormy Daniels, been told by a judge that she has to pay Donald Trump's legal fees, having lost part of a case against him, which is now like over $300,000. So while creepy porn lawyer is elevating his profile, using these people, she is probably going to have to go bankrupt. Julie Swetnick and he are under being referred for a criminal investigation by the Senate. She's going to have to get a different lawyer as well to defend her. So he's destroying these lives and using these women. And it looks like maybe the Democratic Party is the next woman that he wants to use to get more money or to elevate himself.
That's such a good point. And actually, I made that point to him in his one and only appearance on this set. And I think we have the tape. Here we go. Stormy Daniels was to perform in Richmond in a depressing strip club. This hero that you say you're protecting, you're her protector. Why is she working in seedy strip clubs while you're on television wearing expensive suits? Why are you not exploiting her? Why is she doing that?
Because she wants to, Tucker. And
she wants to have people
This is
throw
America.
things at her.
This is America. And guess what? If a woman wants to perform in a strip club, she does so.
But you're getting rich.
Even though people, I'm not getting rich.
How badly do you think Stormy Daniels wants to perform at strip clubs in Richmond?
Look, women make their own decisions. We all find our own level, and we make choices based on what best suits us. The problem with Mr. Creepy porn lawyer is that the only thing missing from him is the giant gold ring and a big, giant gold necklace, as he's using this process to benefit himself. And you see that as the clients lose, as they don't just lose, Tucker. They end up having charges against them or having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, so that they lose and they get ruined. Now, that's the Democrats. And look, he might be a perfect Democrat.